We start this out with the breaking news. The Palestinian militant group Hamas has said its political leader, Ismail Haniyeh, has been killed in Iran. A statement from the group said he was killed in an Israeli raid on a house in the Iranian capital, Tehran, that he was staying in. Israel's military is not commenting. It said the raid took place after he had attended the inauguration of the new Iranian president. Ismail Haniyeh had been leading negotiations with Israel, and his death is likely to affect any chances of progress. A Hamas official described the assassination as a grave escalation that will not go unpunished. One of Ismail Haniyeh's bodyguards is also said to have died. So let's just take a closer look at who Ismail Haniyeh was. Born in the Al-Shati refugee camp in Gaza, Haniyeh was a key member of Hamas from its inception. He was imprisoned by Israel a number of times, including for 3 years in 1989, as it cracked down on the first Palestinian uprising. At one point, he was expelled to southern Lebanon for 6 months. In 2003, he survived an assassination attempt by Israel, along with the Hamas founder, Sheikh Ahmed Yassin. 3 years later, Haniyeh was appointed a Palestinian Prime Minister by President Mahmoud Abbas after Hamas won the most seats in national elections. However, he was dismissed a year later after the group ousted Abbas's Fatah party from the Gaza Strip in a week of deadly violence. Haniyeh had led Hamas's political operations since 2017 while living in exile in Qatar. He was the public face of Hamas's diplomacy in Arab capitals and was leading efforts to negotiate a ceasefire deal in Gaza. Haniyeh was considered to be less hardline and militaristic than Yahya Sinwar, who is the head of Hamas inside Gaza. Well, let's get more with our Middle East correspondent, Yulan Nell, who is in Jerusalem, and Hugo Beshega, who is in Beirut. Yulan, to you first. What more do we know about what's happened?
Well, the reports are saying that this was an attack, an airstrike at about 2 o'clock in the morning local time on the residence where Ismail Haniyeh was staying in the Iranian capital. He was killed along with his bodyguard. We don't have many more details than that at the moment. He'd been in Iran along with the leaders of other Iran-backed armed groups from around the region for the swearing in of Iran's new president. They were seen very prominently at that ceremony and also meeting the Iranian supreme leader. And there's already been a lot of reaction to what happened. One Hamas official calling this a cowardly act, saying it will not go unanswered. There have been others saying that this could lead to a dangerous escalation. And this killing really did catch us by surprise. I mean, it's not been claimed by Israel. When I asked the Israeli military, it said it did not comment on reports in foreign media. But this came just hours after Israel said it had killed a senior Hezbollah figure in southern Beirut. Somebody, it said, was responsible for a deadly rocket strike in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights at the weekend. And we'd really been braced for several days for Israel's retaliation there. Hezbollah denying that it was responsible for carrying out that strike, and it hasn't confirmed the death of any of its leaders. But already there had been fears that Iran could be drawn in if there was a strong response to what Israel did in Beirut. Now we've got Iran saying that its top Security Council is considering its reaction to an assassination of this top Hamas leader on its own soil. So this is another very dangerous moment.
And what do you think this means in the immediate term for any hostage ceasefire deal?
I mean, as you were saying, Ismail Haniyeh was seen as being the sort of more pragmatic, more moderate face of Hamas when compared to the hardliners like Yahya Sinwar and Mohammed Deif, who masterminded the 7th of October attacks still in Gaza. We're not sure about what's happened to Mohammed Deif, but Yahya Sinwar is believed to still be in an underground bunker there. Now, it's very much putting more power in the hands of Yahya Sinwar when it comes to any kind of negotiations on a new ceasefire and hostage release deal. Ismail Haniyeh had been really overseeing those negotiations through mediators. He was somebody who'd been able to travel around the region still and attend meetings. And it's not clear at this point who his successor will be. So this is likely to be a major setback for any sort of new deal on a ceasefire and hostage release. And it's not clear at this moment what it means for the course of the war in Gaza.
OK, Yolande, for now, thank you. Let's go to Hugo Bishega, who is in Beirut. Hugo, what reaction has there been by Hezbollah, another Iranian proxy there in Lebanon, given that this comes just hours after one of Hezbollah's senior leaders was targeted by Israel?
Yes, Samantha. So we had two statements from Hezbollah this morning. One mourning the death of the killing of Ismail Haniyeh in Iran. And the first statement was the first reaction we had from Hezbollah after the attack that happened here in Beirut last night, confirming that the senior commander Fouad Shukr was in the building behind me that was hit in this Israeli attack. So this is the scene here in Dahir in southern Beirut. This is the Hezbollah stronghold here in the Beirut capital. There is obviously a very strong presence of Hezbollah members, also of the Lebanese military. Obviously the streets here have been cordoned off and shops are closed, but streets are getting busier here with lots of people coming to the scene and obviously lots of journalists here as well. But we had a very short statement by Hezbollah saying that emergency services are still searching through the rubble. They confirmed that the senior commander was here in the building when this attack happened last night, just before sunset, but they haven't confirmed that he was actually killed. Yesterday, the Israeli military said that Fouad Shukr was killed. They described this as a precise attack. He said he was the Israeli military said the senior commander was a right-hand man to the Hezbollah leader, Hassan Nasrallah. And he was also described as being the commander behind the attack that happened on Saturday in the occupied Golan Heights when 12 children were killed. And the Israeli authorities had promised a response to the attack. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Hezbollah would pay a very heavy price. And for days here in Lebanon, there was this wait for this Israeli response. So it happened last night. It happened here in this stronghold, Hezbollah stronghold in southern Beirut. And I think the fact that it happened here in the Lebanese capital, and perhaps the first time that Hezbollah was targeted here in Beirut, could be seen as a major provocation by the group. We haven't seen any indication yet about any kind of plans for a retaliation, but I think it's inevitable that Hezbollah is going to respond to this attack. We've seen that in the past when senior commanders were killed by Israel. Hezbollah launched hundreds of rockets targeting military positions inside Israel. So I think a response now is almost inevitable, and obviously this raises fears of the possibility of an escalation in the hostilities between Hezbollah and Israel. So far, most of the violence has been contained to areas along the border between Lebanon and Israel. Tens of thousands of people have been forced to leave their homes because of the violence, but there has been the fear that this violence could escalate to become something bigger, even though the indications have been that Hezbollah and Israel were trying to avoid a major confrontation. But again, as Yolande said, this is a very dangerous moment.
Yeah, the Iranian leadership meeting imminently to discuss their response. To what extent do you think the Hezbollah response, any reaction, will be led by Iran?
Yeah, so Hezbollah is the main group of this alliance of factions and forces across the Middle East supported by Iran, the so-called axis of resistance. And I think that there has been this question since October the 7th, since the attacks by Hamas and then this response by Hezbollah, the level of influence that Iran has over Hezbollah and the other factions in this alliance. I think Hezbollah here in Lebanon is obviously a very powerful force. It's not only a militia, but it is also a political party with representation in parliament. It is also a very strong social movement here in Lebanon. So it does have a level of independence. It does have its own strategy and goals, but there is some level of coordination perhaps with the Iranian authorities. And obviously Hezbollah, just like Hamas, is considered a terrorist organization by many Western countries, including the US, including the UK. And there's been the fear here in Lebanon that Hezbollah could be dragging this country into another conflict with Israel. Lots of people remember what happened in 2006, the devastation brought by the war between Israel and Hezbollah. There was a lot of destruction here in southern Beirut, also in southern Lebanon, and many people were concerned that history might be repeating itself. And this is a very difficult moment for Lebanon. For years, the country has been going through a huge economic crisis. Around 80% of the population estimated to be living in poverty. There's also a political crisis. The country has been without a president for almost 2 years. So it is a very difficult situation for Lebanon. And many here were concerned again that Hezbollah was dragging this country into another conflict.
Okay, Hugo, for now, thank you.